Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special Zoom program, which we're going to give a short program, an overview explaining what these books that Zaidi gave out from Bubba to everyone. The books are called Sichos in English, and there's about 40 odd volumes of this. And I'll explain to you what it is and how it worked. Okay. So from after Yud Shvat, 1950, it's January 1950. Whenever the Rebbe spoke, there were people, Chassidim, Bocharim, who would record, not necessarily with a tape recorder, but would make a record of everything that the Rebbe said, starting from during the Shiva of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Starting from the first one we have is from Good evening. We're recording this. The first one we have is from during the Shiva of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And as the year went on, every time the Rebbe spoke, there were Chassidim, usually Bochrim, who they would write it down and they would record it. During that year, the Rebbe wasn't officially accepting upon himself the leadership yet, but the Rebbe had an instruction from the Frierdiker Rebbe, from the previous Rebbe, that Shabbos Mevorchim, he has to verbring. Every Shabbos Mevorchim was the Rebbe's thing to verbring, and he did that even when he wasn't well, till the last Shabbos Mevorchim in 1992, which is Shabbos Vayakel, which is Mevorchim. Every Shabbos Mevorchim, even from his bed when he suffered the heart attack in Tafshin Lamed Ches in 1977. Okay? So we have, as you can see behind me, this whole big set of nearly 3 shelves is typed with a typewriter, transcripts, just the transcripts of what the Rebbe spoke. Okay? All the way from 1950, all the way till 1992. So that's 41 years. Okay. In the late, so now this was accessible to anybody who spoke Yiddish. So in the mid 70s, when the Baal Tshuva movement began to expand, as in the late 60s and beginning of the 70s, there's already Yeshiva, Dar Torah in New York, and in Morristown, and there's a large English-speaking community that doesn't understand Yiddish. So there was some guys in 770 who came up with an idea that they're going to start translating the Rebbe's talks into English. And they called their little organization, they called it Sichos in English, a very original name. Right? That's taking the Rebbe's Sichos and translating them into English. And they had a typewriter, and those of you who got the earlier volumes of those books, it's in a large A4 size. I don't know where yours is. And it's typed. And that's how they did it. And they gave it to the Rebbe. And before long, the Rebbe wrote back to them and said he's very happy with what they're doing. And the Rebbe encouraged them to continue doing this. And that's how Sichos in English was born. Every so often, the Rebbe would return one of the Sichos where he edited the Sicha, which gave it that extra. In other words, all of these Sichos in this set that I showed you are all unedited. That means, and the Rebbe insisted that they write on every page, Anochas Atmimim Bilti Muga. It means not my responsibility. So if people, it's what the Chassidim transcribed. But every so often, the Rebbe would edit one of those Sichos and make changements and amendments, and then it had the Rebbe's stamp on it. It would have his name on the cover, because then the Rebbe personally amended it, which until the mid 80s was very, very few Sichos like that. Okay, so that's what you have the Sichos in English. So the first Sichos in English began in 1979, the first book we have. Okay, and as the years went on, 80, 81, the Rebbe was talking more and more, and they were making more and more of these sichos in English. So the first year, there's like one book that goes for 4 or 5 months. While in later years, you all probably have one of the books, which is A5 size, which is probably about 3 months worth. Right? Now, you can stop me anytime if you have a question. The main occasion when the Rebbe would speak mainly was Shabbos. Shabbos and Yom Tov. That means Shabbos Mevorchim, or another Shabbos, which was Yutas Kislev, a Shabbos Chanukah, or whatever it may be. There's a special event. I mean, 1980 was the 30th year, and the Rebbe verbringed practically every single Shabbos that year. 1981 was Hakel. was practically every single Shabbos. There was no sleeping Shabbos afternoon in Crown Heights. It was a Farbrengen every Shabbos afternoon. Davening would be at 10, and then there'd be a small break, about an hour. And 1:30 was Farbrengen, 1:30 sharp. You can set your clock on it. Everyone would walk into Farbrengen, and the Farbrengen could last anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, all Shabbos afternoon. And then by the middle of the week, the Yiddish transcript was published, and the English transcript was published. And starting from 1982, they started translating it into Hebrew. English came before Hebrew. Starting from 1982, began the English transcripts. And that's what you see. This brown set over here is all from 1982. Those two shelves of the brown set is the Hebrew translation. So now every Farbrengen was translated into two languages, written in Yiddish in the transcript, and then was translated into two languages, all unedited by the Rebbe, without bilti muga, which means not muga, without the Rebbe's editing of it. So it expanded tremendously, and the scope, the crowd, the audience that the Rebbe was able to speak to expanded and went further. Now, you might find in some of your Sichos in English books that in addition to the Farbrengens, which you look in the index, there's a date and it says when it was. There's also an essays in your book. And those were, what they would do was that sometimes when the Rebbe spoke about something which was fundamentally a fundamental idea, they would work it into an essay, which the Rebbe would edit many of them. So depending on the books you have, some of them have one, two, or some of them have none. But there's a separate essay on a particular subject. I think the one that Shira showed me when I was in the house, then it has an essay on Israel, right? On the whole. Why is it on the cameras off? Who's Gedalia Hertz? Okay. And there were essays, and the Rebbe would edit the essays, and sometimes some of them are available online. Oh, that's better. To see people is always nice. It's only family. It's not the way the women's Neshei, the Neshei Tanya class on a Wednesday morning. Oh, hello. The Neshei's Tanya Wednesday morning Tanya class is all black screens, but over here at least good to see a face. So they're edited, and some of them, those I'll find them and I'll send them to you. Some of those editing, the Rebbe's handwriting in English, is available online. In other words, they people publish them. They got hold of it, so you can see some of the Rebbe's editing of it as well. So that's basically what it is. So now, Bubba, who didn't speak Yiddish, so for her this was a godsend, because she enjoyed very much learning and listening to the Rebbe's talks. Apparently, when they used to have the hookups, Shmuel Lu would then write the hookups means when the Rebbe Farbrengen in New York, starting from the early 70s, they would have a telephone hookup around the world. And you could hear it, and they heard it in Manchester, and they heard it in London, and in different cities all around the world, people were able to hear it live. So if the Rebbe Farbrengen weeknight would be at 9:30 Farbrengen, in Manchester it was 2:30 in the morning. So you can ask Zaidi about that. They used to ring around, and people used to go in the middle of the night, and then Farbrengen would end, and that's when people would be coming in for Shachris in the morning. So apparently Uncle Shmuel would write English synopsis of the Farbrengen and send it to Bubba. So when these books came out, for Bubba, this was a very special thing. So all the years that I know Bubba, from the time when I first met her, she was always reading from these Sichos in English books. And how did she do it? Like today. This week, we celebrated yesterday, was the 15th of Av. So Bubba would take out a Sicha from one of those books from the month of Av, either like this year's 2024, she would have taken out perhaps from 1984, and see what the Rebbe said, or another year, and see what the Rebbe has to say about this day, and that gives us an understanding of Chamishas Av, of the 15th of Av, what it's all about. And so too it is with each one of these Yom Tevim. That's in general a basic overview. Just before I open up for questions, there's another set which you see on top of Golda's head over there, and that's Likutei Sichos. Okay, so now Likutei Sichos, you may have heard, that already is something unique. What is Likutei Sichos? Is that they took those Yiddish transcripts, and that was prepared for the Rebbe starting from the late 60s, late 60s. One Sicha on a particular subject with references and footnotes, and it was properly worked out. And then the Rebbe would sit and work in it as well. There was an editorial board, and they would choose a Sicha, and they would hand it into the Rebbe Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the Rebbe would sit and prepare and put his additions onto it. And then that was printed for Shabbos. So that for every Shabbos, there was a fresh new Likutei Sichos. This was an essay on the Rashi or something to do with the Parsha, usually between 6 and 10 or 11 pages, which had in it a lot. It's already it's not just a conversation. This is already a learned thing, which is 39 volumes of them. It's in the order of the Parshas, and they're taken from this set over here. So the Rebbe would teach a Rashi, and from that comes a whole alikut, means one such sicha. That's Likutei Sichos. That's the edited version. So today we have 46 volumes. I think it's 46 of Sichos in English. You have 39 of Likutei Sichos. You have all of these, which I can't remember how many volumes it is, and there's over 100 of the ones translated to Hebrew, and they're only holding. They have another 6 years to publish. They haven't finished publishing yet. So the Rebbe's teachings is still very much being produced and revealed to the world. Even now, 30 years or 32 years after the Rebbe last spoke and taught us something, we still haven't finished publishing all of his teachings. Arguably, the Rebbe was the one who taught the most, probably from the most in history of the Jewish people. How do we know that? Not just because we were able to record it, but because simply there's such a vast volume of amount of teaching that the Rebbe taught over all these years. And we don't have anybody else in history. You have the Rashba in the 13th century, who he wrote a lot, but it's nowhere near to the teaching which the Rebbe did. Most of the Rebbe's teaching was verbally. He also wrote a lot, but not as much as he spoke. Anyone who's technically inclined, when the iPod first came out, so remember the iPods, they were small, and then they came with a big iPod, 60 gig. Wow. So someone went and put all of the Rebbe's recorded talks. They made a Rebbe iPod. 30 gig was the Rebbe's recorded talks. 30 gig is a lot. In fact, it's an amazing amount, 30 gig. But that 30 gig is not even, perhaps a third of what the Rebbe taught, because most of the Rebbe's Sichos were said on Shabbos and Yom Tov throughout these years. So it's even more than triple than the 30 gig, if you want to put it into electronic terms. Any questions here? Have I not explained anything properly? Anyone have any questions? You must have.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So you're basically saying that it goes from the Hebrew date. So I look up the Hebrew date, and then I go to my Sicha and I look at that chapter on that date.
So yeah, do you have your book in front of you?
No, but 1 second, I'll get it. How can Mom do
it? So if you open up I'll tell you. I just said. I'll say you have it there. So if you open up the beginning, you have in the front. You have a table of contents, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the first item there? You have
Shabbos Parshas Chayei Sarah.
Oh, so you have already Shabbos Chayei Sarah, which is Shabbos Mevorchim Kislev. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which year?
5746.
46. So you have the 3 months, right? So you have Shabbos Mevorchim Kislev 5746. Then you'll have Shabbos Toldos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5746 was it Vayetze? I don't remember if there was a Fabring in Vayetze that year. Vayishlach, there certainly was.
Vayetze, yeah.
Yeah, Vayishlach.
Yeah.
So there you go. Practically every Shabbos, and then you're going to come up to you'll have your Tes Kislev. You'll have the weekday Fabring in there as well.
Okay.
19th of Kislev will be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you have there those 3 months: Kislev, Teves, and Shvat.
Okay.
Every time the Rebbe spoke, you have it there in that book. So Bubba would open up that book and find something. If it was Shabbos Chayei Sarah, she would open up Chayei Sarah and she would go and study and learn that if she chose that year.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Important to note that all of the other, you only have one of the books. All of the rest is available online. So you can see them all online. If you finish that book and you want to see Chayei Sarah of 5745, or 5747, 85, 86, 87, then it's all available online. I can send you the link. But that's the way she would do it. I don't think she had a system of which year in particular. But what I do remember is that later years, while the Rebbe was still talking, she would always do the year before, to see what he said last year. I only met her in 1991, and she was doing what the Rebbe said the year before. But afterwards, it was always, she just chose randomly something to do with that week or that day. And she had them on that bookcase next to her bedroom, and she was always, using them. There was always a tissue in them on the kitchen table where she was up to. I think some of you got them with some flyers. If there was something that came in the post that week, it may be as a. You got one there.
No, but I know
Oh,
someone who
yeah.
opened
Oh,
it and
Golda
then
got one. Yes. Oh, there you go.
X.
X got one. What is that one? You're on mute, huh?
Yeah, I've got something in here.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's something. It's like a membership. Oh, it's a receipt from Lubavitch. It's a yahrzeit reminder.
I've got two of them.
Shul. From Shul.
I've
Yeah,
got
so
two.
she used those as bookmarks. Yeah, it looks like a yahrzeit
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah, so I can see where Bubba was up to
Yeah.
in this one.
She got a catalog, whatever. She used them as bookmarks.
I remember, was she already learning when you got married to Gold? I don't ever remember that.
Yes, very much, because we used to talk about it. These Sichos in English used to first come in the post as weekly or 2 weekly. So they put in the post. They used to print them every week, and then they became into the books. So it was a booklet, and they started off as booklets. And I think your father, got rid of a lot of them over the years, put them into Seamus. But they all started off as booklets after every February, and then they were published into these books. So we have them all organized. Like I said, I think it's 46 volumes. Now, see, any other questions first? No, is it all clear? Good. Now, Sichos in English as an organization began to expand more than just the transcribing the Rebbe's Shabbos or weekly talks. They started publishing other books as well, which are a collection of the Rebbe's talks on different subjects. And that's where you go in the Sichos in English library. There's a whole range of different topics, all in English, and they opened the world to the Rebbe's Sichos, to Hasidus in general, and the Rebbe's Sichos in particular, in English. And they opened it up for the whole English-speaking public, which is probably the majority of the Jewish world today, more than the Yiddish-speaking public. And they have many, many different books on a whole range of different subjects. The last few years, they started publishing Likutei Sichos. Those are the blue books that Bubba was also using latterly. But they have all different subjects, marriage and you name it, whatever it is, they publish them, all taken from the Rebbe's talks over the years. It's all available online on Sichos in English. Give me a second here. I will find it, and then you'll be able to see the link. Hold on. Oh, here. SIE.org. And SIE.org, let me bring it onto the screen. I'll share screen with you. Yeah, you see it. So you have over here, yeah. So you have the library. You see, here's the SIE library. What is this? Going like this. There we go. So you have the previous Rebbe's memoirs. You want to read about the previous Rebbe in prison. But here you go. Here you have 50 books on Hasidus, 6 books on life cycles. Right? Life cycles is customs of birth and pregnancy, Upshanish, Bar Mitzvah, the Bar Mitzvah Mimer, Eternal Joy about marriage. There's 3 volumes. One of them is available online. Wedding discourses, the Rebbe's Maimorim, right? That's just that. Then you have stories and history. Previous Rebbe's Likutei Dibur, the previous Rebbe's talks. All sorts of different things. These are 2 volumes, To Know and to Care, 2 beautiful stories. This is all history. So you have, Sichos in English has a massive library. You see, Jewish law, they have Shulchan Aruch, Sefer Minhagim, the laws of cooking on Shabbos, they have a whole book on it. Beauty within, concept of tznius, as they're taught at Sefer Mitzvahs to study every day, significance of Kaddish. So they got lots and lots and lots of stuff over here, as you can see. So it's SIE.org, and over there you'll be able to find everything. And those that are available online, they'll link you to Chabad.org, where that's where they're hosted by. So they're all over there. But that's basically an overview over these Sichos in English books. Are there any questions? There must be. No one has any questions? Okay. No? Bex, anything? Leah?
Remy, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, enjoy the learning. And when you finish your book, you can trade them with any of the others or look it up online.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, just give me a call. I'm always available.
Thanks, Remy.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Enjoy the books.
Thank you.
Well.